In this session, we're going to talk about process optimization. And once you assess the new normal, you need to look at your system again and understand where you can make additional improvements to improve the overall performance of the company. So this session, we want to talk about how to go in and optimize that process. And we're going to go a little bit more in depth than our last session. And we really want to focus on overall equipment effectiveness. So once we define the process that's bottlenecking our operation, we want to go in and start assessing that process and understand where is the potential to make improvement. I'm a huge proponent that every process can be improved and improved significantly. So if you look at the details, there's significant opportunities for making improvements to any process. So of course, the OEE, overall equipment effectiveness, measures how well the process is utilized compared to its full potential. And the key here, when it's scheduled to run. So if it's not scheduled to run, we don't want to take that total 24/7 measurement. We want to look at when is that process scheduled to run and how effective is it when it's scheduled to run. Okay, so there's three elements that include factors that we want to look at for improving effectiveness. The first one is quality. So it's a measure of process outputs to see if they're sufficient to what the customer requirements are. Performance, that's a measure of our process efficiency. And availability, which is our measure of process utilization. To optimize the process, first we need to understand, does the current process have an issue with quality, or does it have an issue with performance, or does it have an issue with availability, or a combination of all three? The measures that we look at are utilizations. So that's the actual process time that the process is actually working compared to when it's scheduled to work. Improving utilization increases the process uptime. Efficiency is the actual output against some expected standard, usually expressed in some unit of time. And again, before we measure this, we need to make sure that the standard is correct. We don't want to measure against an outdated standard or a standard that's incorrect. And improving efficiency will increase the output when the process is functioning. And our third measure is our quality measure. So our quality measure is looking at the actual good pieces off the process, and that's according to the customer requirements, against the total process outputs. And this is usually measured in first time right or first pass quality, and improving this will improve the first time right. So now let's look at the big losses. So we categorize the losses in terms of quality, performance, and availability, and they can be subdivided into what's known as the big six losses. So the big six losses, there's two in each category. From a quality perspective, we want to look at defects or rework that are causing the process to deviate from normal and unnecessary output. So if we're producing things that aren't needed for the customer, stop doing those things. From the performance perspective, we want to look at minor stoppages. So this is typically where I see the biggest opportunity. There's minor stoppages throughout the process while it's running. That's like, oh, I got to adjust this, or I got to fix that, or I need to attend to this. So those minor stoppages create huge disruptions in the performance. Next is speed loss. We're looking at, again, against the standard. So what is the standard, and are we producing to the standard, or have we slowed the process down for some reason? And again, I see a lot of things in terms of slowing down because I don't have a pile of work in front of me, or the work expanding to the time available. For example, Parkinson's law, right? So work expands to the time available. And third is the availability, which is unplanned downtime. So we have breakdowns that happen, or if we have planned downtime that is taking time off the equipment. So these are the big six losses. So once we get that data, now we want to apply the Pareto principle. So what's the Pareto principle? So we can take these categories and we can look at these categories and identify countermeasures that we need to apply to reduce the loss to improve the overall effectiveness of the process. So how do we determine that? So we want to use the Pareto principle. So what would Pareto say? He would say 80% of the losses are coming from 20% of the loss categories. So quickly we can do some analysis, speak with data, and understand where the biggest losses are coming from. And we want to attack those first by putting countermeasures in place to reduce those losses. And again, we need to do our root cause analysis. So this is where PDCA comes in, and doing the root cause analysis to make sure that we're putting in permanent countermeasures that prevent the losses from occurring again. And they might not be simple fixes, they might be more complex fixes. Once we do this, we should get a jump in performance by attacking the biggest contributors to losses and correcting them. In the next session, we'll talk about some of the techniques to apply to address some of these issues in terms of quality, performance, and availability.